who cares? Because in the grand scheme of your life and your company holistically at your age, are you really going to look back in 10 or 20 years and that matters?
No. Good to go?
Good to go.
All right. I got Jason from LK Miller stopped in. Jason, it's a pleasure to meet you in person.
Thanks, brother. Likewise.
I've had a couple people, especially Anthony, he's the one, Anthony Riccioli, threw your name at me the day he was here. He's like, oh, you got to meet Jason. You're going to love Jason. And you reached out, and Lauren talked to you a couple times, and we're like, we got to make this happen.
Yeah, man. He's my boy.
He's a good man.
He's a good guy.
He's a good man. He's staffing my podcast like half the people I've had.
And if you try giving him money, he's certainly going to take it.
No. He's a great dude. Yeah, so if you know Ant, you work with him regularly, you must be a good guy because he knows a lot of good people.
Thank you. So I was telling you beforehand that I was looking for a good young concrete guy, and I got latched on to Ant.
With greasy hair?
He rolls up in his beat up Tahoe coming off the job, and I just fell in love with him right away. He's connected me with so many different people.
I'm telling you, man. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. And Anthony, you can rely on Anthony too. That's one of the things I say. He's loyal, and you can rely on him. And if he ever comes up short, it is not because he didn't do his best.
For sure. Yeah.
So I'm glad we have that connection.
Yeah, man.
But you have a whole lot of stuff going on, and I was excited to get you in here in person. And you're more commercial. I'm like more residential, so that's kind of cool. Yeah. You know, we can like vibe off of that.
Yeah.
You also have an interesting backstory that I like to kind of start with that. We'll kind of progress from there.
Sure.
Is that cool?
Yeah,
so
sounds good.
If we can just go all the way back to the beginning, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Souderton, Telford area.
Okay.
I went to Souderton High School.
Okay.
Class of '98. Didn't come from much. Myself and 3 brothers and sisters had 1 bedroom, and my parents had another bedroom in a 2-bedroom apartment. My parents divorced when I was 12.
Okay.
So I was an athlete, played baseball, and wanted to be a baseball player. Quickly realized that wasn't going to happen. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. And then I knew a couple state troopers. So I thought, okay, I can go to school, be a state trooper, sign up for $60,000 a year, full benefits. Pretty sure I could get myself a single house then, because then at that time, if you had a single house, to me, you were loaded, right? Like if you had a twin,
okay,
like, how the hell do you even how do you
even make that work?
I'm like, I need to know what you do, because we were in apartment buildings my whole life. So I started to go to school to be a state trooper, and I was dating this girl in high school, and after high school, we went to, that Christmas, we went to her uncle's Christmas party. She said, I had started going to school to be a state trooper, thought I was well on my way. Wintertime, she says, we're going to my rich uncle's house for Christmas.
She referred to him as?
Yeah, the rich uncle. Okay. He's known as like the rich uncle. Like,
okay. Everyone's got one, right?
Yeah. Right. I'm like, what's he do? And she's like, he's a commercial builder. I was like, I don't even know what that means. Like I wasn't like a tinkerer. I wasn't like a Lego kid. I was just kind of like an athlete. That was it. Like, I don't know. Construction was the last thing on my mind, quite honestly. But like, okay, cool. So we go. He lives in this cul-de-sac. We pull up, nice suburban sprawl home. I'm like, holy shit. Like, I need to know more about what this guy does. 10 minutes in the door, him and I like hit it off really well. Similar backstory. Grew up in the same area. And 2 hours later, we're sitting in this dining room, and he's like, I could see you taking over my company one day. And I'm like, dude,
the first time meeting him.
First time meeting me 2 hours.
Wow.
I'm like, I just met you. I don't know anything about construction. I'm going to school to be a state trooper. Like I thought I had it all planned out, but I was always entrepreneurial, selling baseball cards and lemonade and mowing and paper route. So I was like, okay, well, there's something intriguing about working for yourself. So he says, I'm like, look, well, I'm going to be a state trooper, but thanks, but no thanks. And he says, well, why don't you just start pushing a broom for us on weekends, cleaning up the job sites, and see if you like it. And again, I didn't really have a pot to piss in, and I kind of wanted to impress the niece, so I'm like, sure, I'll do that. So it was shortly after the new year. I showed up to a job right here on Adams Avenue off of Trooper Road. We were building the building at the end of Adams Avenue, 2-story building. I go in there, and it's a bunch of just crusty old, hungover, miserable guys.
The typical. Yeah, what you think of when you think of construction.
Yeah,
That's
kind of. Yeah. And so I went in. I was scared shitless. And his brother was the super. And I went up to him like, "Are you Peppy?" His name was Bob. We called him Peppy. And he said, "Yeah, I'm Peppy." And he said, "Who the hell are you?" I'm like, I'm Jason. I'm here to clean up." And he's like, "Grab a broom, grab a barrel, get this fucking place cleaned up," because they were rocking the show.
Okay, all right.
So I'm scrapping out, I'm sweeping, and he's like, "All right, kid, take a break." I'm like, "Oh, I don't know what to do," And so, but anyway, so I worked a full day, and I liked it. Like there was something cool about seeing 40,000 square foot plates like broom swept, and it would look like a bomb shelter before I got there. I was like, I took some pride and ownership, and he was really hard on me all day. And in the end, he's like, "Good job, kid." And I was like, "Oh shit!" Like, I kind of like that,
Yeah.
So I kept doing that for, I don't know, 6 months, and then I scaled back school. I was talking to Luke Miller at the time, and I said, "Look, I'm kind of liking this." I said, "Why don't I scale back school part time to go part time, and I'll work with you during the week a couple days." Cool. And I kind of liked the money, so I did that, and then I got my associates, I got my bachelor's. Meanwhile, I had started to become a superintendent. I was running projects, and so I was on so this was 4 years after I got in total, I got my degree, applied for State Police Academy, got accepted, got a letter in the mail, went into his office, and I was like, "Dude, I got accepted to State Police Academy, so I'm going to roll." And he's like, No, you don't want to do that. And he's like, "Sit down." So I sit down. 20 minutes later, my entire course of my life just pivoted, because
In one conversation.
that was it. Yeah, 20 minutes. It was a flashback to that Christmas. He was like, "Dude, listen." He's like, "You have something. You remind me of me." He's like, "I told you that when you started." He said, "If you forego going to State Police Academy, I'll bring you into the office. I'll teach you estimating, project management." He's like, "Be a super for 2 more years. Then I'll bring you in the office, teach you estimating, project management. I'll put you on a path to ownership, and in 20 years, you can purchase the company from me." And I was like, 20 years? Like,
That's
like,
long.
dude,
Yeah, especially when you're young. You hear 20 years, you're just like,
yeah. I was like,
time.
But I got to be honest with you, like, there was something. It was like kind of like the North Star that I was always looking for, because like my parents were kind of paycheck to paycheck. No one was really like a role model professionally to me. There was no entrepreneurs, no nothing. And I was like, this guy, he's got a nice house, he's got a beautiful wife, 2 beautiful kids. Like, I see him wheeling and dealing. Like, I see him dipping out to the shore on Fridays. Like, I want that life. And so I just shook his hand. I was like, "You got yourself a deal, man." I ripped it up, threw it in the trash, and
Wow.
So then I stayed being a super for a couple more years, and then he brought me in the office, and sure enough, he did exactly what he said.
How about this, man?
So 20 years later, about 5 years short of that, I got married, had my first kid, a son who's now 4.5, and we had a 5-year deal in place. And I went into his office like halfway through. I was like, "Dude, like, we can't, like, I'm piss and vinegar." Like, as a dad, I'm like, I'm a dad now. Like, I'm ready to like attack the day and like leave my son a legacy, So it's like, I can't wait 5 more years. We gotta do something like soon. So he was like, "All right, just give me some time." So that ended up being, I don't know, 8-10 months later. He was like, "All right, we got something for you." And in the meantime, I was like trying to be poached by other developers, commercial developers locally. All of these big developers that do all this work are like, "Well, dude, why am I hiring you? Why don't you just come on board? We'll do construction." I was like, "Look, man, like, I'm nothing if I'm not loyal." And I was like, this guy, like I hardly had like hair on my armpits. I'm sitting in this guy's couch, and like this guy's telling me in 20 years he's gonna sell the company, and like we're like almost there. Like, so like there's really no amount of money you can offer me. So I just have to see this through. But quite honestly, there was a little resentment, right? Because I was like, let's go, like I'm ready to roll. And so anyway, offer came up, three different valuations. They called me into their office, and the gravity of the moment wasn't lost on me. I was like, dude, I've been here more than half of my fucking life. Like, they're about to go and show me a number, and I'm either going to dip or I'm going to throw all of my, clams in that bucket and see what I got.
Yeah.
So it's like, the valuations are going. So I'm like, finally, I finally see a number, and I was like, okay, that's palatable to me. In the meantime, I've been doing as much homework as I could on like, mergers and acquisitions and selling a business and buying a business. And I got myself an attorney in place and an accountant. I surrounded myself with.
I was going to ask, so you had some people help you kind of evaluate.
Yeah. Because I had a couple like commercial developer clients who were sharp cats, and I kind of was impressed by what they were doing. And I was like, I need a team around me so that when this happens, I'm fully prepared.
Sure.
So they were like, call this guy, and he was like, call that guy. Just like Ant said, contact you.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, if you're a good person and you give me a recommendation, I'm going to take it. So I put those pieces around me, and sure enough, I told him. I kept telling those guys it was going to be sooner than it was because it was out of my control. They were trying to handle it all, but they're like, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? So all I did was I saw the number, and I said, in my head, I was like, that's pretty palatable. Like, I make every decision by my gut. Like, I can't overthink something. Hell, I can hardly think about something.
Yeah.
It's like whatever my gut tells me to do, I'm going to do.
Okay.
So it's like, whoop. I'm like, if I give you a check for that number, you go away. That's it. No like earn out, nothing. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to St. Petersburg, Florida, where he bought a house. And I knew I was going to do it right away, but I was like, just give me a couple days and I'll get back to you. Meanwhile, I talked to everybody in the company. And they were like, I was like, look, if I buy this company, I'm going to be talking to him soon. If I buy this company, can I count on you to stay? Because if not, I got to figure in new staff, and there's some reshuffling.
Yeah, man, that's
some reshuffling.
It's a good call.
Yeah, so everybody was cool, and everyone's like, yeah, man, like we can't wait. Like this has been the writing on the wall for years.
Wow.
So I was like, give me a couple of days. Left there, called my wife. She's like, what do you think? I'm like, I think I'm going to do it. Meanwhile, I had a buddy who was in SBA at Univest, so I teed him up. He gave me all the paperwork and stuff, and I don't know. They emailed me everything. I sent it to him. I sent it to my accountant. Within 5 minutes, they both called me. Literally 5 minutes. I sent this. I said, please review. Call me when you have some feedback. Within 5 minutes, they were like, yeah, it's a good deal. You should do it. The accountant was like, just on some quick math, like, I'm 10% higher, like it's a fair number, So, and the SBA guy was like, "Yeah, you're good for that. I'll give you X plus Y for operating capital. You'll come in at Z, and are you good with that? I need 10% down. Yeah, I'm good." 60 days later, settled. Now the cool part was Luke had kept estimating and trying to fill my plate. He was cool till the bitter end. I owe him a lot, man. Like he told me straight up, he's like, just because we're in escrow to sell this company, like I'm still working like a dog for you.
Wow.
So like he would say, hey, got this one, boom, got this one, boom, got this one. And yeah, it was great. So we still talk to this day.
That's amazing. I mean, there's like so much there because yeah, so you don't come from an entrepreneurial background like you were saying, but all those moves were all entrepreneurial moves. You talked about not overthinking.
Yeah.
You didn't have all the answers, but you got the right people in place to help you figure it out quickly. Yeah. And you also like wanted to protect yourself, thinking like, oh, I could take it over, but maybe I should talk to the staff because so-and-so could walk or this or that could happen. And the other thing that's unique about it is I like that deal. And I'll tell you why I like that deal, because sometimes when deals sound too perfect, they are. And if they're a disaster, they are a disaster, right? But like you had some gray areas in that deal. Like you said, there's some things you weren't loving, maybe some things he wasn't loving, the time period. But like you guys had a trust in each other and you're being loyal to each other. So it's no surprise that you guys worked that out.
Correct. Yeah. Our relationship over those years definitely, it really showed all of its true colors. Like because it had to get kind of gritty at times.
Yeah.
Like he stayed consistent with who he was, and as did I.
So going back to when you his name's Luke, right?
Correct.
Okay, so when you met Luke at that, it was a Christmas
party.
Okay, you met him. What do you think he saw in you that he even said this to you about, like, hey, I could see you taking over my company? What were you guys talking about that he even said that to you? Could you put your finger on it, or you're like, you just don't have a clue?
Dude, it's been 25 years and I think about it often. I've asked him a couple times, and the best way he can verbalize it is that you reminded me a lot of me. I think what he meant was that, again, he was one of several. they didn't have anything. He had just this dogged determination to be somebody. He worked for Hanson Properties in the 80s, who built basically all of Bluebell commercially. And then when the loans were called, in the loan crisis of the 80s, they folded. Luke was a super for them, and they self-performed everything. So like their electrician started his own electrical outfit, their HVAC guy, sprinkler guy, et cetera, et cetera. And they were like, well, somebody needs to be the GC. And he was like, well, I'll do it. I have the contacts of all these tenants. So in 90, he started his company. But same like me, you know, he was just willing to do whatever it took to make a buck the honest way. We went to the same high school, you know, so we shared a lot of the same contacts.
Okay.
And we were literally from like a couple blocks away. But I think it was just, if I know him and I know me, I think it's that we're just kind of down to earth guys that we're not the most intelligent guys in the world. But as you say, like, I didn't have anybody entrepreneurial around me, but I just kind of, I always, to this day, like, I still throw some crazy ass goal out there. And then I just sit in silence and I think about how do I reverse engineer it, right?
I love that, man.
Like, okay, here's me buying my place in Ocean City that I wanted to with my kids when I really don't have the business right now because I bought the business, I bought a house, like, I don't give a shit. Like, what's the step before that? I had a step before that or whatever, you know? And it's like, it's kind of that way. Like, I get really bored if I don't throw something goofy out there and work towards
it's another symptom of an entrepreneur.
yeah. Like I got some nutty ass ideas right now that
you've had probably 4 just sitting here.
100%. I'm starting my own podcast.
Yeah, you're smart. It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Sounds good, man.
So like, yeah, but he was the same. He's the same way.
Okay.
Like, he was the same way. So anyway, to answer your question succinctly, I think it's just that we were two low to middle class guys that were had a bunch of kids around us that we helped raise, had a lot of people that relied on us, and like someone's got to be the one. Yeah. Right. Like someone's the fucking person in the family that takes it from nothing.
You hear that all the time, right?
Yeah.
It's just that one person changes the trajectory of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, I kind of like, you know, us just first meeting now, but you have a nice reserved personality, and I don't know if that's how you were when you're younger or not, but like you do seem like somebody that is sincere. You know, you can sense that, you know, you meet people, right? And he probably sensed some things about you, and maybe, yeah, he saw himself in you, which is pretty cool, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's important to me, like just being kind, sincere, like my whole thing, like my kind of personal motto is just like be nice and work hard, and that's always what I've done. Like
that's your motto.
I'm just nice to everybody.
Yeah,
you know, like the guy pushing the broom gets the same treatment from me as the CEO that we're building a space for.
Nice.
And like that, I've been told that that's kind of like my calling card, and or that like that's rare, which I'm like, that's weird because that's just who I am. You know,
it's natural to you.
It is really natural.
Like yeah.
And like just bullshitting with people, and like, I don't know, man, like, dude, we're here for like a fleeting fucking second in the grand scheme of life. Like, I think about my mortality probably like 10 times a day, and like just the fact that like I'm here right now, what are the literal chances that we were both placed here right now? Like, we're gonna be a fucking speck of dust in 2 seconds. I might leave here and get my truck blasted and die. Like, that's always on my mind. So like, I'm just trying to leave people better than when I found them. And like,
so it seems like a dark thought, but the reality is it actually helps you live a better life.
I love it.
Right.
I love
like
it.
You're using it. Mate, to someone hearing that for the first time, like, what are you talking about, man? Like, you should be talking to someone about that. But the reality is,
I've done that too, but
yeah. But like, you're using that as, I could tell you're saying it, you don't mean it from a dark place, you mean it from a positive place.
Yeah, like there are people like in Bhutan, like the Bhutanese people, and there are other places in the country that in the world that like their focus, like they think about death often, and it puts things into perspective.
Yeah.
Dude, I got a fucking app on my phone that reminds me several times a day, just a reminder you're going to die. And I'm like, oh, like that's cool. Wow. When I come out of a meeting,
and you're stressing out, or you're getting like, worked up about something, or
like I'm leaving my work to go home to my beautiful family, and like really I got life by the balls, let's be honest.
Yeah,
like we won the lottery.
Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
of life, and that's kind of just the perspective I have. And
Wow.
and it helps me. I don't stress really on all that much stuff, to be totally frank with you. Like, if anything, I get depressed, but like I don't get anxious or like stress about shit. Like, it doesn't matter. It's construction, dude. It's not brain surgery. Like, no one's gonna die, you know. Like, I don't care about the fucking wainscoting being nicked. I'll send a guy there, I'll fix it.
Right.
Like, I eat money all the time on stuff because I'm just like, whatever it takes to make you happy, man, because I just think so holistically.
It's funny you're saying that. I go through these two zones in my own business where I want to be more like what you're talking about, and then other times I fall into that trap where everything's got to be perfect, and if that happened, well, who did that? Like, why are we letting that go? Why am I over and over paying for that same thing again? And then there's other days where I'm just like, dude, it's not worth the stress. Like you just said, something got to go fix it. I like that guy better than the guy that's like being the drill sergeant about it.
Totally.
Because it still comes with a cost. Even if you were to call out whoever did it and have them take care of it, but it comes with a cost because you're like, that feeling is exhausting.
Extremely. And it's damaging.
It is damaging.
Like, you are the center of the universe for your company. And unfortunately, that maybe feels a little egotistical to think about, but that's what you have to think about. So like, that's how you have to think of it. So like, what's good for Mike? What's not good for Mike? Just fucking pay the guy $500, pay the painter, pay Jared $500 to go back for the day and paint. Who cares? Because in the grand scheme of your life and your company holistically at your age, are you really going to look back in 10 or 20 years and that matters?
No.
Like,
the answer is definitely no.
You got to hit home runs, and like really the home runs are all you have to really worry about. Like, you know, the nickels and dimes, like who gives a shit? Like the angst that you have worrying about that hour that you may be worried about that, not you, anybody.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you could have been out like hustling for that extra hour.
Yeah.
You could have been networking. Could have been recording a podcast.
Yeah,
could have called an old client to check in, see if they have anything going on.
Yeah.
Could have called an architect. Hey, you want to meet for coffee tomorrow?
Yeah.
No, it's like, who gives a fuck?
Yeah. It puts you in a defensive state, and you need to be able to play, you know, both sides to win in business. But the reality is, like, you can get caught up on that defensive side and playing, like you just said, no offense, right? Like bringing new business, having that other meeting, and you're playing backwards a lot.
Yeah.
And you know,
this industry will kill you,
dude.
It'll fucking kill you.
It will.
You know what it takes just to build a house? It's like you can make 1 million enemies, lose $1 million, and get 1 million gray hairs and have your
all in one day.
Yeah. And it's like, who the hell wants to carry that?
You're right, man. I mean, it's a good point.
Narcissists and like self-sabotagers. I guess, but like, it's not me.
No.
You know,
it's funny. You're really speaking to my heart here, because like a lot of my mentors or people that I've worked for, built for, had more of the mentality of like, I don't want to say point blame, but it was very like, you were afraid to make a mistake because they were going to come at you and make you responsible. Like there was no room for like error without like taking accountability, but not like it was like forced accountability. It wasn't even like, hey, I wonder if Mike will pick up the pieces on that mistake. It was more of like in your face kind of a thing. And I'm like, and I always wanted to own my own. I don't know, even from a kid. I come from a little different than you. I had a lot of entrepreneurs in my family. So like, to me, I was like, I got to own my own business. I just felt like it was like something I needed to do and I wanted to do. But I had some great mentors, and I don't regret working for the people like I'm describing right now, a little more opposite of what you're talking to. And I feel like it is a horrible culture for the whole organization, because I would watch so many people dislike what they did, and it wasn't that they didn't like what they did, they didn't like who they were doing it for. And I'm like, this is bad. I never want a company where it feels like that. Not that I want it to be like, okay, to make a mistake, whatever, don't care about your mistake, but more along the lines of like, hey, let's figure out what happened here, see if we can fix it next time. And I do try to operate like that a lot, because it's exhausting being the other guy. But I feel like you can get tricked in you have to be careful from your mentors sometimes, like, and maybe they don't mean to do this, but like, you might think you have to be like that to get the result. Like, if you want this life, man, you got to be like that, or you're never going to have that life. Like, maybe that's not true. Maybe you don't have to do it that way.
100%. I say all the time that like my company is going to be the size that it's going to be based off of me being who I am, period. Like, that's it.
You're,
Like,
you're
I'm
the,
not
you're,
gonna-
the- you're
I'm
the
not gonna
captain, man.
compromise that. Like, I'm just not doing it. Like, would I love to double revenue in a couple years? Yeah, that's one of my current goals. But like, it's happening the way that I want it to happen with the people who I want to work for. And I would be that way. Frankly, I think I would be that way regardless of the industry I were in.
Okay.
But I also understand that I need to be that way uber in construction because, again, the fucking industry will kill you. I don't want to be 65, overweight, with a drinking problem, high blood pressure, owe everybody money, be afraid to leave my fucking house because a guy I owe money to is right there. Like, if I have it, you're getting it, whether it came from the client or not. I don't want to owe you money. If I owe you $1, I don't want to see you.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think I want to take my 2 kids out for dinner and like, oh fuck, there's
so. Yeah.
So like, I try and leave every situation better than when I got there.
Yeah.
Of course, there's certain personalities where that just doesn't work, but like, you can't hold on to it, dude. I sleep like a freaking baby every night. My wife will tell you. Like, I don't get up once, bang, head hits a pillow, I'm out. I don't think of shit. No matter how much stress
Good for
I
you,
have.
man. Maybe we'll talk about that off camera.
I'm like an Olympic sleeper. I don't know what it is. It's just
That's awesome.
But I don't know. And I wake up every morning. Like, I was talking to a couple guys I know about this, and it was like, for me, like, I wake up, and if my brain is a whiteboard, like, it's all clean. Like, I'm not stressing about anything from yesterday.
Wow.
It's just something that, I mean,
Are you always like that? Naturally, or like
a little bit, but I started taking transcendental meditation like 15, 17 years ago. And that was really reformative because like, I'm always in the moment, right? Like, I'm here with you right now, talking to you, looking at you, seeing your Lakers shirt, wondering why it's not a Sixers shirt. But I'm here. I'm not fucking thinking about my Pico bill or dinner or Danny if he's looking at me or what camera to talk to. Like, I'm here. And that's really helped me.
Yeah.
The meditation's really helped me.
Well, that's interesting, man. It's something that I've tried, and I think and I think failed. I want to say failed because I just feel like it never worked. But it is one of those things, I guess, like, maybe we could speak to that for a second. How did you get into it? Like, was someone introduce it to you?
So I had always heard of it. I listen to Howard Stern.
Okay.
And he does it. Paul McCartney, Jerry Seinfeld. Like, it's super.
Yeah, I mean, you hear about it all the time, right?
And I went through. So I'm 44. Like 15 years ago or so, I went through a divorce.
Okay.
I was with somebody for like 8 years. We got married. 14 months later, I found out she was cheating on me, and it was like, fuck. Now, dude, I was not that great. Like, I was drinking a lot, which today I'm 600 days sober, no alcohol. It's a huge deal to me.
Wow.
But so like
600, that's
yeah, thanks, man.
Nice.
Thanks. So anyway, I knew I fucked up some stuff, and like, I definitely wasn't going to be like, hey, this is your fault. I knew I had some shit. So like, I just became a recluse for like 6 months, and I was like, okay, how do I work on myself? So I just focused more on my fitness, and I knew that if my brain's not like calm, I'm screwed. Like, I can't really function. Like, I come home, and like, if my wife's talking to me, and then like the 2 kids are talking to me, and then the TV's on, I'm just like, everyone, please, like, I can't focus that way. So like, I'd rather just sit and stare at a wall by myself all day and just think and notate stuff. But I knew that I needed to kind of just be better as a person. So I'd always wanted to take transcendental meditation anyway. I took it. You do have to pay to take it. You can't just watch YouTube. Like, you have to pay somebody to do it. It's like $2,500 at the time, and I was like, boy, this better work. This better be some woo-woo crazy shit.
Yeah.
So I went to a meditation center in Jenkintown. It was hooked like dope right off the bat.
Wow.
Right off the bat. And it's been game changing, man. Like, I can recognize every detail about this room. I hear everything. Like, but I don't know. I love it.
Wow, that is really, really interesting. I mean, you hear people talk like, yeah, I'm going to meditate. I'm going to get into that. I'm going to get into, like me, I'm saying it. I love working out. I love physical fitness, but like that mental game, and that does help me mentally, but like what you're talking about is a different level. But you actually did it. That's the difference.
If I only have time for one of them, I do both of them in the morning. But if I only have time for one of them by chance, it's definitely the meditation. Like, first of all, I can lower my heart rate. Like if I'm going to go for a run, yeah, sure, that's good for me. But I can lower my heart rate meditating, and also focus and have clarity for the day.
Dude, that's amazing.
And visualize my entire.
So you do this in the morning typically, is it non-negotiable for you?
Oh yeah, for sure, for certain.
Okay, like brushing your teeth, meditation. Like
first thing I do.
Okay, wow.
So I have a gym in my garage. I'll go down there. First thing I do, I have a chair that I meditate on. Boom, and then like I'll read and stuff like that. But and then you're supposed to do it in the evening, which I used to do it religiously in the evening. Now with the kids, it's a little hard to find 20 minutes to just post up and do that. But even if it's 5 minutes, even if it's on the ride home, you know, like it just, like I said, at this point, like I have to. Okay. I have to. Like if I go to a social event, I'll leave here. I'll go in my truck for a couple minutes and just kind of clear my mind.
That is awesome. That's inspirational, man. I like that.
That's me.
The no drinking thing. Just curious, like what triggered that to like, hey, I'm not drinking anymore? Like, was it an event, or was it just like not the purpose of my life? Why?
I feel like I didn't have a rock bottom like a lot of people think you need to have. I had a couple like rock first floors, but like not rock basements. You know,
you were close.
I was close, but I had always wanted to stop. So the short answer is when I became a father. Okay. That was the short answer. Right, because you only need to wake up hungover on a Saturday once or twice, and with your kid jumping on you at like 6 a.m.
Yeah.
You know, like pushing them away before you realize that's kind of being a shitty father. You know, and so I wanted to try it. I wanted to stop for the longest time, and every time I would drink, I'd wake up the next day and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, this is limiting you in every capacity. So then I've done dry January several times, but it was last year, what was that, 23? Yeah, that I did it, and I felt great. So of course, historically, it's been like, oh, February 1st, like boom, boom, boom. I'm like, well, why? Like, I feel good. What would 2 months?
Why fuck with it, man?
Yeah, and then March comes around. I'm like, no, this is good. And I'm like, if I could do 6 months, like that would be ridiculous. And then I did it, and I just kept stacking the days, man. Like, I always believe that I could do literally anything I put my mind to, except stopping drinking. I was always like, oh, I guess I'll just be like a happy, jovial dad who drinks too much, or I guess I'll just be a good husband who drinks too much, or I guess I'll be a successful businessman who drinks too much, who like comes in from the garage with one but has already killed one and like kind of and that got old. That got real fucking old, dude. Like just the drinking and like the waking up the next day. And now I just have like full clarity every day, man. 4:30, 7 days a week. I'm up. I work out 5 o'clock, do my whole thing. Like, I don't know. I say, like, I tell my wife, like, I'm just taking my medicine. Like, I have to.
Yeah, it's good, man. So you found several things that really work for you. And I guess the important part is, I guess, if we could highlight something there that I'm noticing is like, you recognize that, oh, I feel good when I do X or don't do X.
Yeah.
And why would I, like, what is that condition? It's like, well, hey, like, what's one more night or whatever. But like, you felt good and you're like, I'm not fucking with that.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and dude, like as a father and a husband and a business owner,
yeah,
like you 100% owe that to the people around you.
That's
like,
really true, man.
You know, like,
yeah, sure.
Like, my ticker could explode any minute. I could get liver disease. I could, you know, drive drunk and kill somebody. Like, we have a whole ecosystem that relies on us, both here and at work. And it's like, I don't want that on my conscience, man. All the subs that you feed, like, they rely on you. They rely on me, you know? So that was part of it. That was a big part of it. But, like, yeah, I'm just, like, sharp all the time, you know? Like,
yeah,
it's and candidly, some of it's vanity. Like, you start to, at 44, you start to put on weight. Like, Jesus Christ! Like, here I go, the construction guy with the big belly. But that's okay because I can buy rounds for everybody. That's not really a badge of honor. And I think the new badge of honor is like going to bed early, waking up, being sober, like being sharp as a tack, 24/7. For me, that works for me.
Yeah, for you.
I'm not stumping for shit. Like,
yeah,
you know, I that's,
you're just sharing what works for you.
It just works for me.
Yeah, you don't judge. You're just sharing.
I made a couple good decisions in my life. You know, marrying my wife, buying the business, becoming a father. 100% the best one I've made was stopping drinking.
Really?
Now, that said, today's day 600, and I gotta leave here and just be sharp as I can to make it to 601. It's a little bit less of a struggle, you know, but you go down ashore and it's like you walk out on the deck and you're like, but you find stuff.
Yeah,
you know?
sure.
Ginger beers, non-alcoholic seltzers, whatever. Honestly, at this point, I'm totally fine. Like,
Yeah.
I still have to be attentive to it, but like, I'm cool. I took everybody to the Bluebell Inn for my company Christmas party. There was, I don't know, 50 people there, and I was like, oh, this will be a test. It was fine. It was great. I left, I pulled out and looked at my rear view. I was like, oh, I don't have to like look at my rear view and be careful.
Oh, wow.
You know?
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, it is, you'd be shocked how many people are interested and intrigued. And we're like, oh, yeah, I would love to stop. Like, tell me more. How'd you do it? And you sit at the bar, you go, that guy kind of looks like an asshole right now. That guy's a big time guy in my world, and he looks like a jerk off because he's had too much. I'm judging.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit.
Yeah, well, but you were taking notes for yourself of knowing what you don't want to be.
That's it.
It wasn't necessarily judging. You were more of like taking inventory in your head of like, yeah, I don't want that. I like this, but I don't want to be that.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I want my kids to think I'm like a superhero, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
I say that all the time.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
they're going to be like,
Yeah.
that's your dad?
Yeah.
Why? Because you don't look like any of their dads.
Yeah.
He's got his head on straight.
Yeah. No, that's good, man. I mean, a lot of that's like putting work in off the field, right? Your business is the field, that's game day, but like you're putting a lot of work in off the field so you can actually perform at your best. So it's something that I don't think a lot of people think enough about. So it's cool that you're sharing it because it can get people thinking like, hey, maybe it's not drinking, maybe it's something else.
Yeah, totally. It doesn't have to be
It
drinking.
doesn't have to be drinking.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be something else holding you back. You know? So to just dive in a little bit deeper to the business, because I'm curious being a business owner. So let's talk like you took over that company. I'm curious. You worked there a long time, so I shouldn't say like, no, man, I got blindsided, but like, what's that feeling day one? I'm the guy. What was that day like? Was it just another day at work, or was it like pressure? Was it awkward? What do you think it was?
Yeah, that's a good question. No, it was just like every other day, I felt like, to be totally honest with you. There was a good bit of work on our plate. I had started to run things a little bit towards the end anyway. He was kind of leaving and stuff, you know, going to vacations and all. But I just kind of compartmentalized, dude. Like, I was like, okay, I could sit here and worry about my SBA debt and all the employees that I have to feed and all the insurance quotes I just got. Like, what the fuck? What's that going to do to me? Like, there's a task at hand. Like, go get the work and figure the rest out. And like, I don't know, like, I love it. It just feels so, it just feels kind of part of me, you know? It just feels like it was always supposed to be that way to me.
Yeah.
And I'm good at just figuring out shit on the fly, you know, and like living in the gray area and like, just give me half the story. I'll figure it out.
You put all the pieces together.
Yeah. So I'm good with that. It was exciting, you know, because I was like, oh, like finally I can kind of create my own destiny. Like I can do something that affects other people, you know. Like I love hiring people. I think we were talking a little earlier, like you do not need a construction background to work for me. In fact, I prefer maybe you don't, depending on the position. Like I hire for soft skills because I'm out there selling in this form. So like I can't give you over to a PM who's a jerk off or a super who's a jerk off. I just can't do that. So like that's not genuine to my customers. And I don't care if that keeps me at 10 to 15 million dollars a year, or that's what gets me to 25 or 30.
Right.
Like it doesn't matter. That's how I'm going to do it. So like, you know, I'll pick different backgrounds, and that's kind of the fun part is like, all right, I think this person's talent could be best suited for this. First of all, it's like, what positions do I need to help me grow? Unless, of course, you're backfilling an existing position, which is fine also. It's the same process. But, like, who strategically do I need around me? I need somebody who, da-da-da-da. Okay, like, I'm a big thinker, right? I'm not super detail-oriented. I don't really care about the details of anything, which isn't the best as a business owner, right? Like, I know generally I'm going to make this on a job. So the job comes to the end. Hey, do you want to pay this guy, you know, electrician wants $500 for 2 outlets. Like, are we just giving it to them? I'm like, I'm like, all right, client's been good, but yeah, like it was just giving it to them. Like, if as long as I make a round here, and like everybody's cool, I'm good. So like, I don't know, that helps me.
Yeah.
That's just what it's going to be. So if you operate like I do, good. I'll create a position for you, so that I go, here, Mike, here's the job, go run with it. The most important thing to me is that the common thread between us is similar, so that the client gets handled the same way I do. I never want my client to think that like I sold him a bill of goods. Jay came in here thinking they were going to build this office building for us, and like made it seem like it was easy peasy. And now this PM is, an anal prick who can't type a proper email and makes me feel attacked all the time.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Be a good communicator, type a proper email, know when to, gas breaks, know when to eat shit, and sometimes know when to stick up for yourself. But like, it's all a balance, and like, if you have that, I'll find a position for you. Like, the biggest compliment I get from my subcontractors and my customers is like, wow, you have a really good team, they say.
Yeah,
I must have heard it a lot. You have a really good team.
It's a great compliment.
Love it.
I mean, it's a compliment to you as the leader, but the reality is, like, of all the compliments you're going to get that day, it's probably the one you like the most. I know me, when somebody compliments my team, I'm like, I actually feel like that's actually when I actually feel like a business owner.
Totally.
Yep. When I'm like, oh, so and so did that. Oh, wow. Like, oh, yeah, your office staff is so nice. Thank you. She called me back. I'm like, they called you back. Yeah, you'd be surprised. Nobody calls back anymore.
Forget it. Yeah.
I was like, oh, well, thank you. I'll let her know. But
yeah, you'll get plenty of work just by answering.
Yeah, by answering.
If you're not answering your phone out there, like within like 20 minutes, like you're missing out.
It's really true, man.
Money like speed. Like, you gotta fucking return that call like that, boy.
Yeah, it really is. It's true. Money loves speed. That's for sure. So like, we talked about like your leadership a little bit, your organization a little bit. What do you think? What would you say is your? I don't want to know. Maybe it's what you're naturally good at, but like, what do you think you spend the most time on as an owner of your company? Like, what do you? And again, it could be because, hey, this is just what I'm good at, or this is kind of what gets the wheel going. So this is what I focus on.
Yeah, that's something that I thought about a lot last year.
Okay.
And I was like, all right, what's a heavy lift for me and what's a light lift? And I need to just do all the light lifts and delegate out the heavy lifts. So I was still the project manager on some stuff, and I didn't want to be, because I can't really be tethered to this project and have the proper outlook for 6 months from now if I'm still involved with a project. And so I was telling my team, I'm like, look, I'm estimating. So I'm the estimator and the business development guy. I go get the jobs. I put it in a bucket, give it to them. They fillet it, eat it, enjoy it, and report to me as needed.
Okay.
Like on our weekly construction meeting or whatever.
Okay.
So, but I was staying involved on some projects that I shouldn't have been last year. Like this 10,000 square foot fit out that like is on cruise control halfway through. Like, I don't need to be here. My time is not well spent here. So I just kind of made like a pros and cons of like, what's the heavy lift, what's the light lift, and what is the required lift to kind of grow the company. So anymore, I hired a new project manager and superintendent last year. They're fantastic. So like anymore, my day is spent estimating, business development, stuff like this. Frankly, it's a lot of the stuff that just because it's a light lift for me doesn't mean I like it. Like going to lunch with somebody, I could have want to, so I just don't want to. Like, I want to graze and keep moving. Now I had this lunch and I want to take a nap. I don't do any of that, but like, go to lunch, right? Like,
network,
go to events, network, do this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm constantly just trying to find new avenues for us, but then estimating. So that's currently my heavy, becoming a heavy lift, which I need to delegate out and have somebody do the estimating. But I'm trying to take some of the advice that I gave Luke for 20 years as an I don't want to say outsider, but as his number two.
Okay.
That he never really took.
All right.
And I quickly realized that after my first year, I wasn't taking that same advice. Like, you gave this guy advice for 2 decades. What gives me the right to give that advice? I don't know. I think that it's valuable advice, but he wasn't taking it. And I look back and I'm like, I'm not taking it either. You know, so it's like, time out. I'm not doing your construction meetings anymore. These are capable people. You guys have my cell phone. So, you know, I'll send out 3 to 10 bids a week, depending, you know.
That's good, man.
Yeah,
Great.
depending on the week. And I have 2 people in my office that can help me with some of the smaller stuff. I still bid some of the bigger stuff. But yeah, it's and really thinking about like what your strengths are, like what time of day do you operate best, and doing your heavy lifts then, right? So like, I'm good like during like up to like lunch. Right? Like, I'm sharp as that. I get my coffee after my workout. I'm focused. So like, I know I got a couple good hours to like hammer out some work.
Yeah.
So I'll make sure that I'm like locked down in front of my computer if it's estimates, and doing that. Like, I can't do estimates at night. You know, I go to bed a little early. My wife's can prosper during that time. That's just how she operates. I'm not that way. I can in the morning.
Right.
But I used to get up early and start work, and I was like, time out. It's more important to work on myself.
Yeah, get that
then
first.
go, and then move into my work.
Yeah.
So I work out, and I take the kids to school, and then I jam for a few hours, and then I go about my day, job meetings, and look at new projects, stuff like that. But I would say one of the most important things is just take an evaluation on, like, again, when you're sharpest, and then kind of plug your work in that's necessary during that. Like, I'll do walkthroughs or meetings in the afternoon. I'm not that sharp. Like, I'm kind of tired. But like, fatigued me at a walkthrough, that works, because I'm still gathering the information I need.
Yeah.
I'm still portraying the image I want to portray, that like I got it covered.
Yeah.
So like the last thing I want to do is jump on like a conference call or go to like look at a new job or be out and about first thing in the morning. I did that for years, thinking that was the ticket.
Sure.
I got to hit the ground running, and I'm like, it's 10 o'clock. I'm back in my office, and now I'm like kind of tired.
Yeah.
I just talk too much.
Yeah, your brain's already fried.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm
It's the
fried.
beginning of the day, and I am literally
and I
fried
still got
already.
my most important work to do.
Yeah.
You know? So
It's really good. It's really good advice you're giving. I agree with you. You got to get, and you do people hear it, but it's one thing to hear it, but it's really hard to actually implement that, because maybe you're conditioned to think, yeah, but I got to go to that job. I got to check first before the sub gets there, and but like, delegate. Right?
Yeah.
Have competent people, trust them. It's getting done, and you're gonna hear about it one way or another.
for sure. Yeah, you're right. Well, and I would challenge you to like, even if you don't think it's the right move, do it for a period of time and see if your bottom line
that's a
kind of
good point.
changes, you know?
Yeah. Start to see.
something
Yeah, give it a shot.
Yeah.
You're right. I think in construction too, it's like, I always felt like, man, you can never start early enough. Like, I was like, I gotta be earlier. But like, you get up, and then maybe you are like, oh, I'm gonna work out in the afternoon and this or that. But then like, you know, you have kids, right? Life gets in the way, dude. Like,
That's just a limiting belief, because
it really is.
especially when you're acting like that, you're just trading your time for money, right? Because you're going,
True.
well, I have to do more, so why don't I start early? Well, that's going to keep you in small box for fucking ever. Like, you have to find ways to leverage that time, you know, and like small little levers that you pull to create more movement, you know, like.
Sure.
For me,
I know it
works for me.
It is. You're sharing what works for you, which is awesome. I'm curious. So like, you're in your organization. So it's you. You said you have a project manager. You have a super. What other components? You don't have to name every component necessarily, but like, what do you think are the main components of like your operation?
So I have me, and then I go get the work. And then I have 3 PMs and 3 supers that I pair up for projects. So I'll put this PM with that super. It's not always the same pairing. And each pairing of 3 will do 3 to 5 jobs. And then I have an accountant on staff. And that's how we roll.
That's interesting. So you actually, is it a full-time accountant that works for you? Is that like bookkeeper?
So yeah, she's an accountant by trade, but she just does my bookkeeping.
Got it. Okay, that's
and
great. bookkeeper to get.
Totally. Yeah, 12 hours a week, she kills it. But then I have my accountant who we circle up with.
Okay, got it.
Quarterly.
Got it.
So, yeah, it works. It's what Luke had for the long.
My kids, I said, well, my daughter's room is right there.
Dude, I got a 3 and 4-year-old. This is like a library compared to my crib.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's fine.
Oh, my God.
Totally fine.
Usually that dance, I'm actually grateful they're home. They're like, usually my kids are everywhere. Like at nighttime, we're running here, running there, and I feel like I don't even see them.
Speaking of kids,
You guys painted nails, me.
my daughter painted my nails this morning, and I don't dare take it off because
Good for you, man.
why would I do that?
No reason. I actually like the yellow. It's kind of cool.
I kind of dig it too, man.
That's kind of cool. So do you feel like you have a good stride in your company right now, or do you think to yourself like, hey, like I would love to grow with who I have, or is your mindset like I would love to get staff up more, grow more? Like, what do you? And there's no right or wrong answer. I'm just curious what your thought is.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So I have a business coach who I've been talking to, and like the question really is, so I want to double revenue within the next like 2 to 3 years, which I know I can do based on the opportunities that we've had that sometimes I say no to because maybe we're a little too busy, or maybe it's not the right fit. But again, if it's a larger project, say a couple million and up, like I will be involved historically, but I don't want to be.
Got it.
So to answer your question succinctly, we're running like a top right now. It's super easy, and like I guess I could sit back and say like, why would you disrupt this? Like it's running well. You're doing your day is structured just the way you want it, and you have great people around you. But again, in the true entrepreneurial mindset, like it's just not enough right now. So, so yeah, like that's kind of where I'm at. Like, how much can the team that I have currently, which can do, 10, 12, 15, $18 million a year, like how much of that group do I need to keep that group and keep doing that and bring on a strategic partner or two to help get to the next level? I know these folks are capable of taking me to the next level, but I also am super conscious to not crush people's backs, because everyone's been with me. Unless I hired you when I bought the company,
Okay.
I've got like a decade in, dude.
Wow, that's great.
So like 2 of my supers are 15,
Awesome.
16 years. So like, yeah, I just kind of, I'm super conscious about like we're a jockey, right? Like I don't want to go to the whip too much. Like I need gas in the tank for when I need to.
Yeah.
So like, so again, trying to answer your question more succinctly, I want to bring on a couple more people.
Okay.
And I want to delegate 1 or 2 of the things that I'm doing. And I want to work on the business way more than in the business.
Yeah. Which is, you hear a lot of business owners talk about it. Again, very easy to talk about, super tough to do.
Yeah.
It's a big effort to actually start to think like that, and then to actually put into practice of like, hey, I'm going to do X instead of X now.
Well, I agree with you. And like, it does behoove all of us, I think, to get some sort of business coach or mentor. You could just have like a couple people around you. I mean, this is again how I spend most of my days, like reaching out to people bigger and better. Like I want to be the dumbest person in the room. Like, I want to so fucking bad.
Sure, man.
Because like I will learn so much.
Yeah.
And all too often I go in there and I'm the most experienced person in the room, and I'm like, that doesn't work for me. So like I would challenge you, no matter what level you are at, to reach out to people that are more experienced than you. Hire a business coach. I mean, to me there was like a stigma like this guy's gonna be a kook. Like, no, it's not true. Like because you have a certain set of beliefs that got you there, but it's kind of like a glass ceiling, right? Like I need a different perspective to grow, because the perspective I have has me here. Like I need an outsider's perspective that's like, hey, I have this SaaS company that we grew to $1 billion, and here's how we did it. Well, I can't say, well, because this guy has a software company that like he doesn't know what he's talking about,
right?
And it's
sure.
Or this guy makes widgets. What do you know about construction? Well, any good business is processes. So like you can help me put in processes, So like, if you want to grow, you have to have somebody in your life that's going to, frankly, give you a different perspective, because your perspective got you to where you are, but you can only hard work your way so far. Like, that's for the longest time I was like, well, if I just work harder.
No, yeah.
Well, that's not the answer.
Oh, yeah.
That's not the answer.
I fall for that trap all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's just what you naturally think. If you're a hard worker, like, you just keep relying on that, and you realize that's not necessarily working smart.
Well, again, you get back to you're trading your time for money,
You
right?
are.
Because it's like there's only so many hours
You
a
are,
day,
man.
and as a father with young kids, like,
Yeah.
ooh, what am I going to work 20 hours a
Yeah.
week? And I'll really bust it for the company. All right,
Yeah.
well, then there's nothing left in the tank for everybody else.
Yeah, sure. I've always been a believer in, like, there's time periods where it is time to, like, just grind, because if like you said, hey, I'm scaling up, I want to delve more. Like, all right, well, you probably can expect that you're going to be putting in more, but it's nice that you have the self-awareness to know, like, yeah, but I don't want that to be my. It doesn't matter 15, 30, 40, 50 million a year, but if I'm living a shit life, I don't really care about that 50 million a year revenue.
Correct. Yeah.
So it's important to have that self-awareness as you're going into grinding time. Like, hey, this is grind time. Because, you do got to work hard. Like, and I'm sure you can attest to that. Like, you want to own your own business, you want to grow, like, you're going to work hard. Mm-hmm. But
you have to love it too,
Oh God, it's huge.
Like, I don't know, like, I freaking love it, man. And it's a living, breathing organism. Like you can't treat tomorrow the way you treated today, and, like, I don't know, like, it's ever evolving. It's kind of like a piece of clay, right? Like, tomorrow I'm going to mold it a little differently to maybe get more out of my people or more out of me.
Okay.
Or, like, this client has to be treated a different way. Like, my rates are not just my rates. Like, this client gives me so much, this guy gives me so little, this guy gives me this, I need more work this time of year. Like, it's all a process, I think.
Yeah, it is.
Like,
It is.
that's just how I think.
Yeah. I dig it, man. I like it. So, do you what do you think about, like, continuous education, as far as, like, you talked about business coaching, which is huge, right? And you're right, there are a lot of people that probably could benefit from getting a business coach. What else do you do? Like, are you a reader? Are you a podcaster? You and I were talking off air a little bit, but, like, what else do you do to continuously feed the mind?
Read and podcast relentlessly.
Okay.
Relentlessly.
And are you more of, like, a biography, business? Like, what exactly?
So anything that I think can make me operate better, more efficiently.
Yeah.
Like, right now I'm reading Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. Fantastic book.
I'm reading that book too.
It's a great book.
It's a great book.
I've just read 5 a.m. Club and what is it? Robin Sharma's second book, which is the eight habits.
8 Habits. It's sitting right there.
I just finished that. Fantastic.
It's a good book.
So he's the one who wrote The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. I've read that years ago. Any of that sort of stuff. I just reread Outliers. Like, so I'll keep books in my gym, in the garage, and after I meditate, I'll read for like 15, 20 minutes, and then I go about my day.
That's awesome, man.
And it's just something that I like.
I really dig your routine, by the way.
Thanks,
it's similar to
Thanks.
the way I like to operate, and I dig it. I think it's a good routine.
I love it.
And I like it a lot, man. I like it.
I'll end, so then I'll work out, and then I'll jump into sauna for like 20 minutes, and I'll read in there, or I'll have a podcast on, like Ed Milet or any one of these guys.
I love Ed Milet, man. Dude, after I listen to Ed Milet, I'm ready to take over the world.
Dude, so that's what helped me stop drinking, was his dad was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
I just try not to drink for one more day.
Yeah.
Just like when he wanted to quit his business, and his dad was like, just try not to quit your business for one more day. Because that's the mindset his dad had with drinking. Just try not to drink for one more day. Dude, it would be every day I get home from work, and I would just try not to drink for one more day. And I'm like grinding through that night, eating fucking gummy bears and lizards, because you get a sugar hankering, and then I wake up next morning, and I was like, yes, I did it.
Wow.
And just like chop wood, carry water, man. Just like stack the days.
Yeah.
But I like it. Like, it's like I can't like not do hard things, because then I just get all out of whack.
Yeah, it's important. A lot of people are always looking to make things easier, but sometimes, like, it's actually quite the opposite in life. It usually is, right? It's always opposite what we think we should do. But, like, it is the hard things that like, or that's where all the benefits going to come from, right? Like, you don't grow muscles unless you're lifting weights, right? So it's like kind of like you got to put in that to get this.
If I worked out and then I do 20 minutes at 200 degrees and then I get in the ice barrel I was telling you about with 100 pounds of ice for 5 minutes.
I wonder why work doesn't stress you out.
What the hell can be hard after that? I just sat in a fucking ice bath for 5 minutes.
Which is really hard to do.
Like, I don't know. I mean, that's all kind of like the cliche, like hot topic stuff, but don't judge it till you try it.
Don't judge it till you try it. And there's always people arguing about the hot and the cold and this and that. And I'm like, forget about what the studies say. If you like it,
totally,
and it makes you feel good, who the fuck cares?
You know what doesn't work? A Monster and 2 Wawa Sizzlies and a pack of cigarettes in the morning. That doesn't work.
We know that.
Yet it's the construction site meal of the.
It is. That's breakfast.
Breakfast
of champions. Yeah. That's true, man. But it's important to highlight. Everybody's got a routine. I think maybe some people take the routine to extreme, and then other people don't have a routine at all. They just get up and go, and then they wonder why like they never feel like there's like any like balance ever. Right?
Get a routine or whatever it is, but like get a routine.
Yeah,
and that because like then it just kind of takes the thought out of some shit.
Yeah, man.
Like I don't think at all about what I'm going to wear. At all. I just know it's going to be a black polo and black jeans when I go to the office, and that's it. I just bing, put it on, and I'm still thinking. The breakfast is the same. The time I take the kids to school in the morning is the same. Now, years ago, routine was like the worst word possible to me because it was like routine. That's so mundane and boring, and who the hell wants to make the same day? Now, I can't wait. I wear a CPAP. It says how long I slept. If that fucking thing doesn't say the same amount of time within 5 minutes every night, I'm out of my mind.
Oh, wow.
And it says
funny.
7 hours. Set boom. And like 7:08, 7:11. And I'm like, and but now I don't think about it.
Yeah, sure.
Bing, and then get up. Don't think, because then like your mind's trying to tell you to do other shit the whole time.
Always.
Just get up, go do the thing. Don't.
I think that's the advice right there. Don't think too much.
No.
Arnold Schwarzenegger say that. He's like, more doing, less thinking.
It's
just
so
do,
true.
And I'm like, it's true.
I mean, your mind will make you so goddamn comfortable. It's cold. You got the window open.
That's what it's there for. It's always looking to help,
Well, it worked when you're a caveman.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So you think it's like you're being tricked. You're truly being tricked.
It'll try and make you as soft as possible.
Yeah.
But like, there's really no success or greatness right there. It's all like beyond the hard stuff.
Yeah, that's so true, man. It really is true. But education and like continuously education, feeding the brain, feeding the mind. Like I'm big on that. I love that. Something I started doing recently, because like I love to read, but sometimes you get a book or whatever, like you're just not jiving. And I used to like force myself to finish it. Now I'm just like, toss it. I'm like, why am I gonna waste my time? And maybe someone else might love that book, but like it wasn't. I struggled with that a long time. Like I gotta get through this audiobook. I gotta read it, and I would just force myself. I got nothing out of that because I wasn't into it.
Yeah,
I could have been reading something else that would have been more into.
But the cool part is, and Robin Sharma talks about this in the 8 Habits book we were talking about, but like think of your library too as like something that you can leave for the kids. Like maybe you start to read it, maybe it didn't fully jive with you, but like mine in my office is set up like this, and I got a couple bookshelves where like I'm going to try and read. If I find value in it, I'm going to leave it there. One day I'm going to die, and they're going to come into my office.
Okay, cool.
They're going to be like, they're not going to see a stack of Playboys. They're going to be like, wow, look at these books, man. Like, that's how he did it. And maybe...
I kept the Playboys in the garage. Better than that.
Playboys. Now we're dating ourselves.
I know, right?
Fucking Playboy. So like, then it's like, hey, man, like maybe there's some tips and tricks there. And I know that there's a couple of them, 8 Habits being one of them. There's a couple books that I have repurchased and I'm reading and I'm notating because I'd like to leave it for my kids. For me, like, dude, I was never a reader growing up.
Yeah, I was not either.
Like many of the books I read.
Like watching paint dry, bro.
Totally. Many of the books I read, I'll reread the page and reread the page.
Yeah.
Because I'll be like, I don't remember any of it. So I just reread it again.
Yeah.
And sometimes I go, dude, you got through 5 pages in 20 minutes. I'm like, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
There's a
Getting
gem
value.
there's a gem in every one of them. I can think back of all the good books, and I'm not going to sit and write a dissertation about it.
Yeah.
But like, there's a couple little nuggets that I've implemented.
Yeah.
That it makes the $10-15 all worth it.
Absolutely. I love the idea of rereading too.
Yeah.
Like you're right. Like, make sure you got it, right? Or go back again and read the book later.
No one's fucking judging you. It's not like someone's sitting.
No,
there,
you're doing it
Mike,
for
you only
yourself.
read 2 pages.
You're doing it for yourself.
It was a meat 2 pages.
Who cares? Like, I am not a super fast reader by any means, and I think I struggle. You just said, like, I'll read something, like, wait a minute, I don't think I got any of that, and I got to reread it again. I struggle with the same.
That's okay.
Same thing, you know, because I want to understand it. I'm like, I'm putting the time in. I should understand what I'm reading. So yeah, man, it's a good point. Reread, just let it sink in. No one's judging.
Totally. And I mean, you should also be reading stuff in your business, of course, like construction related materials and all. But like for me, I do that. But like, if I'm not the best version of me, like, it doesn't matter if I know how to estimate better, or it doesn't matter if I got a tighter HR ship. Like, it just doesn't matter to me. Like, you have to be the most optimal, because again, quite honestly, as braggadocious as it sounds, like, your world revolves around you. Mike would have not, dropped dead. Forget it.
All right.
It doesn't matter how quick you can estimate, or it doesn't matter.
Yeah, sure.
So.
Yeah. It's funny you say a lot of the books I read have nothing to do with construction necessarily. Like,
I'm not sure I've read a construction book ever.
Yeah.
I mean, I've listened to podcasts.
I have like 100 of them over there, and I might reference them, but I don't.
Totally.
Like, yeah, you're right. Not to say they're not valuable by any means, but
it's for reference.
It's for reference. Yeah. Since we're talking about, I've read a book by, is it Wilkinson? Andrew Wilkinson, I think it's his name. It's called Never Enough. It's a newer book. Self-made billionaire, 38 years old. It's a great book. You would love it. He wrote the book. And it's a lot about him coming from, nothing to creating this just massive company. And, he went from starting a website business, designing websites. Before that was a huge thing. Like, it was just becoming a thing. And then he grew that company, and then, he sold the company and, kind of climbed the ladder. Then he turned it into, hey, like, we're just going to buy and grow companies now. He did the Warren Buffett thing. But he struggled as he became more successful. He noticed this pattern of, like, I thought if I had this, everything was going to be okay. Like, that's not enough. It's not enough. And he fell into, and I've talked about the book with a couple of people, like, oh, feel bad for him. He's a billionaire, poor billionaire. I said, no, you're missing the point. Like, it's not, he didn't do it to, like, feel bad for me. He's doing it as a gift for other people trying to get somewhere. Like, hey, let me save a lot of heartache. You may not need all you think you need, because I had it. And I can tell you right now, like, I could give a shit about it, honestly. Like, money's great. Don't get me wrong. I want to be able to do what I got to do for my kids. But like, he even did the Warren Buffett deal where he gives 90% of his wealth away now. And he's 38. Like, it's not like he's at the end of his life. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I read that. I was like, whoa. But it was a good book, because if you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, you're a grinder, I think we all struggle with that a little bit. And not to say it's bad. You just talk about, I double my revenue. Like, just make sure it's in line with everything.
Totally.
Right?
So that's the first thing the business coach said to me. Why double? I'm like,
it's a great question.
Yeah, right, exactly. I'm like, sounds good. I like Patrick Bet David, who talks about that, the doubling. And like, but for me, I read John Warlow's book, Built to Sell. So all of us with small businesses, like, unfortunately, like Luke, he started the business in 1990. He had the business for over 30 years. He should have been able to sell it to me for more, but the reality was he was the engine of that business.
Okay.
Just like I'm the engine of LK Miller now.
Very true.
You are the engine. So what we really have are jobs. We don't really have businesses, because if we just drop dead, the business stops. So like, if you want to have something that's sellable down the line, you can't be the engine of your company. So that's kind of I said earlier, throwing a goal way out there. My goal way out there, business wise, is to not be the engine. Yeah. Because again, like, no one's ever going to buy you if we're sole operators and we're the engine, because they're going to go, okay, your numbers are this. We'll give you 5 times EBITDA. And you're like, okay, see ya. Like, whoa. We don't know how to do this, and you're the guy. Oh well, Yeah.
So It's a really, really good point, because even if you're not interested in selling, it's a great way to think about building your company, though, because you may want to sell your business one day.
Correct. And it's not even like, hey, I'm going to get to X and I'm going to sell.
Right.
That's the last thing on my mind. But I know if I in order to get to X, there are going to have to be certain procedures and processes in place, which will just make life easy. Because I do wake up every day thinking, how can I cause as little friction to me and my life as possible?
Yeah, it's really a great way to try to build a business. You're not necessarily ignoring things. You're just like, you're making a conscious effort to do what you're saying, right? And to have that, hey, like, that's my end goal. Maybe it's like down the road, or maybe it never happens, but to be thinking and building a business about, hey, I would like to sell this, and it's important. You got to remember, like, well, if you are everything, you have nothing to sell.
Mm-hmm.
You have nothing to sell, right?
Nothing.
And some people don't think about that. They just think they work harder. Well, like you said, well, you have a job. Now you have a job. You just employ yourself. That's
why there's a ton of small businesses out there that are ripe for purchase, because all the generations before us, they were like, oh, I thought I had to sell my company, and now, well, no, you don't necessarily have to sell your company. I'll give you far less because you're the engine, but at least there's something sellable there.
Yeah.
But again, selling doesn't have to be the end result. What has to be the end result for me, quite honestly, is the more successful you become, you really should be working less, right? Like, the less my phone rings, the better I like it.
Yeah.
Because people are doing the things.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
like,
it is.
We know a couple people
really true,
where the phone's just blowing up nonstop, and that's like a badge of honor. And that's how Luke was too. Dude, you're busy. You're not productive.
Yeah.
And that's how I was early on too. Like, when I first started being a PM and super, it was like, I'm looking to make phone calls first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
Like, I'll go days where my phone doesn't ring. Like an entire day, my phone doesn't ring.
That's great.
Now, I've worked on that.
Yeah, I was gonna say though, you didn't. That didn't happen overnight.
I have
had to work.
That is a total work in process. Go in your settings, unknown numbers, silence, right to voicemail. If you ever call me once, I save your number. So if I don't have it, and then I quickly check it, if it's a new customer, I'll call you right back. My phone doesn't make a sound except for phone calls, the text, the emails. Yeah. Ding, ding, ding. Like, you're just a stimulus rat, like getting fucking nothing done.
My phone's on silent all the time.
Yeah. I mean,
it sucks when I lose it because I can't find it. But, but like, funny, like you just said that, I struggle with that. I was working for a production builder, and we were doing tons of houses at a time, and my phone never, I remember one night my wife picked my phone up, and she was looking to call someone back on my phone, and she kept scrolling, and she was like, is this today? And I'm like, yes. She's like, you took all these phone calls? I was like, well, I missed the ones in red. I missed, but but I'm like, whoa, that's insane. Like, all I did was talk on the freaking phone today. Like, and it's so true. I'm like, and I started paying attention. I'm like, when I'm with people, how distracted they get if I'm with somebody for, let's call it 30 minutes, their phone rang 100 times, like, kept jumping off this phone, coming back to my conversation. Dude, you really think we just had a productive conversation? It's impossible.
And that drives me bananas.
It's impossible.
Totally bananas.
And I started realizing, I'm like, I don't want to be that. Like you just said, like you and I are having this conversation right now, outside of an emergency happening, I truly want to be here having this conversation with you right now.
My phone's off. Like, that's just how it's going to be. Like, I don't wear the Apple Watch because, like, and people are like, you owe it to people to give them your full attention.
Yeah.
You just do. Like, looking at your phone and putting it down, like, don't do that to me. That's fucking ignorant. Because I know you're thinking about what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
Get a watch if you don't have, or the time doesn't matter to you.
Right.
Like, but one or the other. But like and you just watch their eyes.
Yeah. They're not listening to nothing. It's I was that guy, and like you said, you think it's a badge of honor. Like, oh, I'm busy. Everybody needs me. And I realized, I'm like, man, that's a really bad way to run.
Do you think Bezos or Musk or any of these guys, our phones are ringing like that?
I don't even have their.
I mean, not that we're that, but you know what I mean.
No, like, but it's the point. The point is though, like. It's distraction.
Yeah.
And it's not that maybe who's trying to call you isn't important. That's different. It's not really the point of it. The point of it is, though, like, you owe it to yourself not to be distracted so much, because it's also keeping you and derailing you from like what you were doing or what you're working on or a conversation that you're having. And I recognize that, and I did what you did. Like, Some people are like, hey man, I can't get a hold of you. I'm like, good, my system's working.
Yeah, same,
System's
dude.
working.
That
Yeah.
I love when I hear that. A lot of times it's the old heads too.
Yeah,
Because it's like, I can't get a hold of you. Like, sure you can. You could have texted me like my voicemail says.
yeah.
You know what I mean? I would have got back to you.
Yeah, because if it is urgent, you will call them.
Totally.
Like you're absolutely calling them back.
And you want to drive me nuts? Don't call me multiple times, please. I missed calls. I fucking saw the call. I know you called.
Everybody sees the call.
Hey, I know you call. We saw
Yeah.
the call, and definitely don't say, did you get the email? I got the email.
I saw it. I saw it. It's a good tip though what you're talking about, because it is like people do in construction. It's like a badge of honor. You're right. That was perfect phrasing. You feel like, oh, I'm needed. So many people need me, and man, it's really bad.
It just means like the more chaotic your phone is, that means you're just not doing shit right.
Yeah, like you don't have, your business is not running. And we had to work on that, and even my team, like I like you said, like my phone will sometimes go hours without ringing, right? And I'm always trying to figure out how to get distracted less, and I delegate something else. Hey, you're gonna call Charlene in my office first. Like, even if you know me, like I have a meeting tomorrow with a good friend I went to high school with about putting an addition on his house, and we're gonna have that meeting. Usually I would have got it, put it on my calendar, talked to him right away. I sent it to, actually Lauren actually made the call. She scheduled the meeting, and now I didn't think about it. But when I'm on the phone with him, best be sure I'm having a deep conversation with him about what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And it's funny you're talking about this, man, because I think about it a lot, the distractions of the technology and the phones and all the shit around you.
It's disrespectful. It really is, especially if you have kids and you're doing it. Like if you're on your phone.
Oh my God, I know.
Man, come on, man. Like
It's
the kid
true.
deserves more.
Now, the problem is, they do it to me.
Well, mine are 3 and 4. They don't.
My girls are 12, which means they're 20, and now they do it to me. I'm like, I'm ready to throw those freaking phones out the window.
Yeah, I don't know. I really struggle with that because, again, like I don't know. Like that's a whole other hour. But for me, it's
We'll save the parenting for
I get it. Like I get it that like sometimes like it's necessary, but people just think a lot of times that they're hot shots, like just like creating busy work for themselves. But at the foundation of a lot of that for me is that's what my brain needs. That's what I need.
Yeah.
Because I lose my energy talking to people, quite honestly. Whereas there are people that gain energy by talking to people. So like my battery is just going down throughout the day.
I am just like, I'm the same,
Right?
man. I can relate to that 1,000%.
And there's people like who shall remain nameless in my life, not that it really matters here or there, but they gain energy and traction talking to people.
Yeah.
You know, so like that was one of the best things about being an owner. I was like, so I can go to a meeting and then I can go to Wawa and just post up in the parking lot before I go in for a coffee. Just 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. Just breathe, clear my head, and before I make the phone call. And that's what, like, the do not disturb. It's like, I want to call you back on my terms because you don't know what I'm going through or dealing with right now, that I might not be able to give you my full attention.
And that's what it is, too.
So you're like, bro, call me back.
It's out of respect for them.
I'm like, it's not for you. Like, I'm not trying to fuck with you.
Yeah.
It's what I need to be best on our phone call.
Yeah.
So, like, sure, I could jump and talk to you, but like I'm not really prepared, so you're not going to get the best of me. I'm trying to show up the best for you.
That's awesome what you're saying right there. I believe that very, very much. Like, yeah, there'll be a phone call come in and you know you're not in the right state of mind to have that conversation.
Totally.
It's not,
especially if you know what they're going to talk about, then it's like, okay,
you know where it's going. You know it's deep thinking.
Yeah.
Deep thinking
Yeah.
conversation.
So I'm
you
just
got to
like,
be ready
okay.
for it.
I'm going to think about it. I'm going to call you back. And as soon as you ask, I'm going to give you a 5-minute soliloquy on the answer, which should cut it off right then.
Wow.
I think. That's how I think.
Yeah, no, man. I love that, man. I hope people are taking notes here because it's a lot of good stuff, right? And this is why we do these. And even though, like, I might have heard some of the things you talked about a million times, sometimes you need to hear it 1,000,001 to start implementing. Like, you know what? I'm going to start doing that. Jason was talking about that on that podcast. I'm going to do that one thing. Mm-hmm. That's the whole point of even having these conversations is like reinforcing that thinking. So it's really great that you're sharing that stuff. And again, you're not like, hey, you need to do this. You're just saying, this has been working for me.
That's the biggest part, like, about the stopping drinking. It's like, as soon as you even tell people that, I'm like, whoa. Like, I'm not stumping for this at all.
Yeah.
This works for me. I don't care if everybody else in my life drinks. I don't care. do you. But what works for me was that. So yeah, with all this stuff, I heard it somewhere. I tried it. It works for me. It's like a buffet. Take what you want, leave the rest.
Yeah.
Throw it in your backpack of life and just keep rolling. And sometimes you got to let go of some of this stuff. Maybe the season of life, a certain thing that one of us are doing doesn't work.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll move from coffee to tea one day. Maybe you'll want to work out in the afternoon. Maybe you say, you know what, I can't read anymore because of what I got going on in life. I'm just going to do podcasts.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, it is. It does change, and again, I think it's a lot of it is self-awareness. I think what I'm gathering here today from this awesome conversation is you're very self-aware, which is like that's a superpower, by the way.
Oh, thanks, man.
It is.
Sometimes it feels like it's stopping you. Like as an empathetic person, also it kind of feel like I'm feeling the emotion of everybody in the room, which is heavy, but like I'm able to make some good connections there. And in the end, I think business is just doing transactions with people that you like.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Everybody wants to work with people that they like.
Yeah.
So, if that can help me relate to some people, cool.
Yeah.
If it totally turns me off, I think that I'm like some fucking goofball, fine. Like as soon as I covered myself with tattoos, I was like, this is definitely going to weed out the people that are judging me, and I'm okay with that.
And you're okay with that.
I'm okay with that. Yeah. And like I just started wearing short sleeve shirts at work. Like when I bought the company for 2+ decades, I was covered, and I would wear a long sleeve shirt because I didn't want to think in the corporate commercial world. Again, it's a lot of like suits.
Sure.
And I didn't want to be perceived as somebody that didn't know what they were doing by some of these people. And it wasn't my business. So I never wanted someone to say, Luke, that guy was covered in tattoos with his hands and blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't think he has it. I didn't want that to ever have to happen. Now, it never did. And to Luke's credit, I hung with him all the time. He's like, you're an idiot. Why are you wearing long sleeves? It's 95 degrees out. I'm like, well, I'm just trying to be respectful of the business, And he's like, I don't care. Like, I had a bun. My hair was down to my ass. And then he was like, dude, that's you. Like, that's what people like. But I couldn't mature enough to really grasp that till a couple years ago, And I think a lot of it was like, fuck you. If you don't want to work with me, fine. But the people that I do meet, a lot of times it's an instant connection, Or like, I just know right now that everybody I work with, I'm working with because I want to work with them and they want to work with me. That's it.
That's awesome. And I find that interesting. Yeah, even when it was your company, you still felt the need you were worried about the way people were going to...
The perception.
Just see you for the first impression and think something different of you, and which is really sad, actually. So
now, that said, we've done better since. I've gotten better and bigger opportunities.
Yeah.
So like there was something to that, to me, just kind of cutting loose, just
well, you're going to be yourself.
Yeah, I think authenticity will show no matter what.
I agree with you.
So.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I encourage that as well. Be who you are.
Yeah.
If you start changing yourself, or like, I understand where you were coming from. Yours was more of like, I want to be respectful to the people, and I don't want them, to think, oh, I'm not capable. I'm a wild, this or that, or whatever you think, because someone has some tattoos or they wear their hair a certain way.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing that really that's actually becoming cool.
Totally.
It's like it's actually reversed now.
You're like the oddball if you don't have any tattoos anymore. It's weird.
I know more people with them than without them.
Yeah.
It's so funny. We had Sam in here. She got ant tattooed on her on herself, and it was, she I didn't ask if she had tattoos. She just was talking about kind of funny. I'm like, is Anthony get one? She's like, no.
I try and convince him. Nothing. No interest. No interest. You think like the Italian flag or something?
I know, the Italian horn, or yeah. I know.
We love you, Anthony.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. So we talked a little bit about like maybe future plans for your business. Do you and you don't have to answer this question if you're uncomfortable, but like, do you think one of your goals is to eventually sell your company? Do you think about that?
I do think about it. Not in the sense of like retirement, but just more in the sense of like I want to do more development.
Okay.
So I want to buy land, build stuff commercially, and generate my own work. Ultimately, I think there's an exit at some point, and I'll work towards that. Whether it's somebody internally, like I had, or not.
Yeah.
But I certainly know that life's short, and that I'm not going to work till I'm fucking 80 years old. That's for sure.
Yeah, and if it
Like,
is, it's going to be something you really, really.
yeah, like calling my own shot.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, maybe. Do I have a path there? Not necessarily. I'm currently trying to figure that out. But like,
Okay.
like, what is it if it's not something that somebody else can prosper from?
Yeah.
To like, I want somebody to prosper like I did.
Yeah, sure.
You know.
Did you you ever give a thought? Or you talked about development, which is cool. We get into that a little bit, but like I do a good bit of that, not commercially, but on the residential end of it. Maybe like putting in like a CEO of your company, and you start dabbling in stuff like that, or maybe you have the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I actually have a meeting tomorrow morning with somebody in that regard.
Yeah, cool.
So we've never really, I've never wanted to do, excuse me, residential. Like, that's not just my thing. You know, I'm used to like bing, bang, boom, clean. You know, I don't have somebody eating dinner in the house, critiquing it at the end of the day. But we do get a lot of requests because, excuse me, we do some residential, but it's for my customers that I've worked for years that are like, look, I don't know anybody else.
Right.
So like, I trust you that you'll get it done.
Okay.
We renovated a house in Avalon. I did a basement. We do additions, kitchens, but like, we never solicit it. But at this point, I don't know. You know, why not try and cast that net if it's
if the opportunity's there.
So I'm going to talk to somebody about like, hey, if you're here, you know, is it worth our while?
Yeah.
But again, it's not something I want to do.
Okay.
Like, I don't want it would be somebody like, here, that's your baby.
Yeah. Your thing. It's interesting you said that. Like I've met several people that used to tell me, "Oh man, you're crazy doing residential building. Like you should do commercial." And you know, I have done some commercial, but it was actually reverse of what you just said. It was more along the lines of like they didn't know anybody else. They trusted me, right. and I would do it for them. We just built a yoga studio for my sister-in-law. She's my sister-in-law. Of course, I was going to build her studio, and it was a great project. I loved every bit of it. So would I do more? Yeah, sure, I would do more, but it's not my primary focus. I do love. You know, I love building residential homes. There's something about creating like I just had settlement yesterday on a property that I poured my heart and soul into, and I was at the settlement table with the people, and they were so freaking excited to buy this house. And I was like, man, I built this house, and they are jacked up to buy this house. Like they were busting at the seams, and I'm like, I really like that.
Yeah, I get that. And let's be honest, your profit margins are going to be higher than they are in commercial because the reality is I'm a commodity.
Okay.
Right? Like that's just how it is. Okay. Like if I get a plan, a 10,000 square foot plan from a landlord, like to gut and go, the whole thing, like they know generally it's going to be about $1 million or $100 a foot, or $1 million.
Okay.
So then they send it out the bid looking for numbers in that regard, like in that range. And like if I'm 1.2, like I don't really have that latitude to like get in their feelings and convince them that I'm the one, because commercial is really a commodity. Like the cost of gold is the cost of gold, the cost of orange juice is the cost of orange. The cost of steel stud, drywall, drop ceiling, LVT paint, and plastic laminate millwork is what it is.
Sure.
Like there's no up. Like you could upsell this room probably 5 different ways. I'm sure that I don't really have that luxury in commercial.
Yeah.
So for us, but as a result, like my schedule, unless we're building ground up, of course, like on an interior fit out, the schedule's the schedule, and like nothing's really going to change it. Same puzzle, different place. You know? And commercial clients, I think, a little less picky.
Yeah,
right?
I would agree with you. From a few of the commercial projects we did, that is what I've noticed, which is kind of refreshing.
Yeah.
Because we my project manager did a walkthrough, and he was there for 2.5 hours, you know, walking through the whole house. And you know, we don't rush that process because like that's their time, you know, they're spending a lot of money. So like I never give him like, hey, you got to be done by X, because I'm like, if it takes 2 hours, it takes 2 hours. Some people fly, and some people really need to take the time. They want, you know, where's the hot water heater? How's it work? How do I change the air filter? And like, you know, the walkthrough, and like he was in a closet. I walked in the other day, actually. He was around a recess light, and I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, well, when you turn the light on, and if you get in the closet and you shut the door, you can actually see a little nail pop on the edge that they saw. And I'm like, but that's the stuff we're dealing with.
I don't typically have to deal with that.
Like we're dealing with a lot of that type of stuff.
Yeah. Well, my folks know that like they're just, this is just a vehicle to make them money. So like a lot of times we'll just get like the, looks good.
Looks
I'll
good,
call you
man.
if I see
Can
it.
I start business tomorrow?
if I see it, yeah.
Like, I need to start bringing some money in.
Well, so that's the thing, right? Like there's a shit ton of deadlines this year for like the end of the year. The reality is they're going to schedule their moving trucks. There might be 5 moving trucks of furniture. Like I don't have the latitude to maybe go into Bob and Susie's kitchen and be like, look, if you just give me an extra month, excuse me, we'll really knock this out. I don't have that latitude. Like the business has to run.
It's got to run.
They're like, dude, I'm going to get holdover rent of like 6 figures.
Yeah.
Like
this is my sister-in-law, same situation. Like we had to like bust ass and she had to just like start operating, you know?
So whereas if you do her house, it's definitely going to be a different temperament.
Yeah.
Naturally.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, that is probably like, there's definitely other differences, but that's one of the big differences that I would hear from commercial, residential is like that, hey, look, like it's more of like, hey, we got to get this done. They need to get in, they need to operate, typically not as picky. That doesn't mean you're trying to do shit work. It's just, it's more of like, there's a grander, like the goal isn't just like to build a nice place. Like this is a business to generate money for these people and they need to get in.
And the good ones will toe the line of like keeping the relationship solid and giving, I don't want to say good enough, but really that's what it is,
Okay.
right? Where it's like, dude, you couldn't have like a custom cabinet maker on a commercial job.
Yeah.
He'd get buried and you lose money.
Absolutely.
It's like, dude, slam those boxes together in your shop, bring them out, fucking screw them up. Half a day, you're gone. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
We'll adjust it on the fly. Like,
Yeah.
Or like,
oh man, you got me rethinking everything right now. No, but it is, it's cool. We've dabbled in it and it's cool. But it's also though, like, again, it is a big undertaking. Like if you do have a deadline, someone is trying to operate, like that's a pretty big, like they're relying on you to finish their space so they can operate their business. So that's a big responsibility.
It is. It's one I like because, well, A, it's the devil I know, but B, it's like, I meet a lot of like good contacts, like a lot of guys that know construction, because some of these bigger companies, they'll have like somebody in construction that you kind of deal with.
Okay.
And I don't know, I met some really cool people that like, because not every homeowner, a lot of homeowners kind of think they know, but like some of the people that I work for actually know, because like they've done 10 Bed Bath & Beyonds, they've done 20 Petcos, they've done 5 Mercs.
Got it.
So it's like, yeah, like, all right, man, no problem. Like, it again goes back to me like wanting to create less friction. I'm like if I do a job for you, we're speaking the same language, so it becomes a little easier.
Yeah, yeah, true.
And like they're busy, so they don't want to meet all the time. Maybe you have weekly job meeting, but like you don't have, the parents bringing the kids through at framing time and like spending half a day. Like, you just don't have that.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, like maybe we'll stop by, but like we gotta get back to the office. Is everything cool? Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah. We have like,
it's speed. It's kind of,
it's not speed. Our meetings are not speed.
Yeah.
We'll do a walkthrough with a client. They, on a typical house, they'll come 3 or 4 times. And those meetings are long. Like we'll walk through with the electrician with the plan to make sure all the lights are where they're supposed to be. And, it can, again, I think it's like, even though it can be redundant and it's like really tedious and very time consuming, I always am like, well, they're spending a lot of money and I have to give them this time. We need to give them this time because like, this is important. This is their home. See, that's the thing. Like you said, like this is where they're having dinner, right? This is their home. So, I always have to remind myself of that. Cause like I always like to keep moving, but the reality is that's probably one of the bigger differences. We're looking for the nail pops around the recess lights that you can't see unless the
So how much fun do you find the development side early on?
How much?
Like, do you enjoy that process?
Yeah.
Or do you enjoy the build? Like, there's a lot of paper shuffling involved with the development.
Yeah. So I do all of our development. I run that part of it as well as we do a lot of the building, and I'm very involved with the building. It's funny you're asking that question, but like I think about that a lot. I really do enjoy the development aspect. I have a mind for that. Like that's just like I'm very natural for that, and I have a good eye for design and all that, and I love building, and I'm obsessed with learning all about like new ways of doing things. But like I really am intrigued about like finding a property, and like, oh, I wonder if I could do this and that and get, you know, better use out of that property. If I bought it for X and I could do this and I could change the zoning and I could build this, or I could, you know, oh, I could flip that lot. I can get 8 houses this way, you know, like, and going through the process. Some people think it's horrible. Like, oh my God, that sounds terrible. I'm like, yeah, but that's where all the value is.
Totally. Yep.
That's where where the value is created.
I find fun too.
Like, that's where it's all created. Like, there is no house to build unless we create the value to be there first. So,
well, and you know, you could also stop there and then sell it to somebody else.
I do all the time.
Yeah.
I've sold a very large project off. It was 30 townhomes. I subdivided, me and my cousin bought, and we subdivided it up. And I fully intended to build these out. And once I like caught wind that larger developers were interested, I was like, my cousin Joe was like, yo, we're going to just sell this. Why would we build this, bro? It didn't even financially make sense at all because of where we got in. We put in that work and we created all this value.
Yeah.
So I really like it a lot, actually. You know, I'm doing some of it right now. And I had a meeting yesterday with a gentleman that might be purchasing a property off me. It was 8 lots. It was 3, and I turned it into 8.
Wow.
And I have a gentleman interested in purchasing it, and you know, if we can come to terms, like, I'm selling it to him. I'm not going to build them.
Yeah, I know a lot of builders who don't want to do that piece. You know, that they just let somebody else push all the paperwork and deal with those headaches, which you're good at.
Yeah, and it is a headache. You know, I have a property that I just got approved. It was 2.5 years, and it's a single family home. It just there was a bunch of variances it needed, and it was very painful. The process can be, oh man, it could put you in a dark space sometimes because you feel like you're not getting anywhere, and like you know, and you have a lot of minds to change. You see something, you see value, but like, I went into a zoning meeting and I didn't know what I was up against. I walked in there was like 40 people very upset with me because I wanted to build a house in a residential neighborhood. Like, you would have thought I was putting in a high rise. But it's like, you have to play that respect game and like understand, like, you know, you're the new guy coming in, and oh, you're a builder, and you have to have the conversations. You just care about profit. Well, this is a business. Yeah, I care about profit, but like, at some point someone's going to develop this property. Sure. Right. And then they get to know who I am, and maybe you don't win everybody over, but it's also high risk. It can be high risk, you know. Fortunately, like, there's been projects where, you know, maybe I couldn't get as many lots as I really was thinking, so the valuation came down, and then other times it works out great, you know. So it is very risky.
Out of curiosity, what are a couple key things that you look for? Are you trying to go ahead of the path of development? Are you trying to be right where the action is?
It's a really good question. I asked, so I worked for a developer for years in Philadelphia, and I asked him that exact question. I was building residential homes for him all over Philly, and I was one of 3 other builders. We were doing 100+ houses a year for this guy.
Wow.
And we were building in a lot of neighborhoods that you would actually think twice before you even drove a truck down. And I would say to him, I'm like, are you just like taking that chance of like, hey, like, it's busy here, so like, if I just throw new houses up here, it'll work? Like, what is your philosophy with that? Because some of these, like, we were rebuilding blocks. He's like, I'm never the pioneer. I'm paying attention to the other guys that are the pioneers, but I am right behind them. Yeah. I'm the second guy in. Like, I am like, before they shut the door, like, I sneak right in. Yeah. And that was I'm like, dude, that's great advice, because like, I'm not saying don't go be the pioneer, don't be brave. I'm saying maybe don't be the guy that has to be the front line, but definitely don't be the guy in the back of the line. Yeah. Because I watched that a million times. I watched guys come in on streets we were building on, and they thought they were going to put a few more amenities, and they were going to get 60 to 80 to 100 grand more because their kitchens were fancier. Very rarely worked out. Yeah. You know? So,
I think that's the fastest path to profit, because the pioneer might have to wait. Yeah. Right? Like, they landed that boat on that island, and they might have to wait for civilization to come around. Yeah. But
you could be the guy that can afford, like, everyone's at a different thing, right? He was in growth. Some guys can afford, they'll buy, and I've seen this, they'll buy pieces that they intend to do nothing with for years. Sure. you know,
And just sit on it. And
just know who you are and what you're trying to build, and you know, you're shifting your mentality. But it's a really good question that you asked.
Yeah, because I want to get into more development on the commercial side. So I'm just curious kind of what your
Man,
your
it's
strategy is there.
awesome. I mean, you definitely have the temperament for it, and you're likable. So you know, you are the guy that walks in there, because I've seen this where some developers go in and they just think because of this big developer they can just get whatever they want. It doesn't work out like that.
Yeah, the developers. So a developer is my main customer on the commercial side, and yeah, I see the ones that have success, and I see the ones that are more pushing the rock uphill, and I can see the temperaments, and
Yeah.
So maybe we'll partner on something.
Yeah, man, I'd be glad to talk to you. I mean, I enjoy talking about it.
Yeah.
I really do.
Do you want your kids to get into it?
I would love it. You know, it's funny. My dad didn't push me. You know, I got into what I do because he would buy real estate and he would fix them up, and that's what I did. I was the guy, like, he actually owned an auto body dealership, but he started buying rental properties when I was about maybe 10, 11 years old. And there was one right near his body shop where they were renovating, and he said, why don't you go do demo today with those guys? And I was like, I wanted nothing to do with the car thing. I was like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
This is so cool. So, but he didn't, hey, you're going to be into this. Like, and I kind of want to be like that with my kids. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to force it. I want it to be there, but I would love it, because honestly, I'm trying to build something that can be like a legacy, something for them if they want it, and if they don't, that's cool too. Maybe a Jason will come in one day and buy my business from me if that's the case.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, that's something I think about a lot with my kids being young. I know it's super cliche, but I do want them to do something that they love.
Yeah.
And if you love it, like, that's cool with me.
Yeah.
But there's also a line there too, right? Like, if you're uber happy and you're making 15 grand a year, like, maybe you need to kind of rethink some things, you know?
Oh yeah, sure.
but maybe not. I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
maybe, like, my 3-year-old will become a nail technician, and like, she'll make what she'll
did
make.
good work.
Thanks, brother. You can see my toes. They're purple. So like, that's something like, I don't know, I guess we're kind of getting into the realm of like fatherhood, which I have a million questions about for cats that have kids older than me.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, that's one of them. And then the other thing is, how do you monitor your financial success and otherwise as it pertains to your kids? Right? Like, I don't want to raise a jerk off, but I also do want them to prosper from all of my hard work.
Dude, yeah, you're reading my mind. I think about that all the time. And I if you look hard enough, you'll find a lot of successful guys out there, I think, give really great advice. But I think it's a matter of, like, you should never be ashamed whether you come from nothing or you come from a ton. It's not their fault either way, right? Like, oh, you come from the streets, or hey, you come from a multimillionaire family. It's not their fault either way. And I think you have to be more in tune. This is just my opinion of, like, the type of person you're trying to raise, so they can recognize that for themselves. And I think it's them that has to make that choice. If that makes sense.
It does, yeah.
Like, it's a little weird what I'm saying, but
no, that's a good
because I'm like,
if you give them the tools to handle it, then they'll handle it the proper way.
Yes, like I try to focus on those aspects, because but hey, look, you're also the parent. Like, you also will recognize if you see it going, it's too far left or it's too far right. You're the parent, and hopefully you can step in to give that advice. But I'm like, I say it to my wife all the time, like, even the way things are at school and the cultures, I'm like, we got to worry about how we run shit in this house. We can only control so much. So like let's worry about, like, the kids we want, and let's like be examples, right? And I feel like my mom and dad did such a good job of that. Like, I grew up and, I, like, my parents, like, I didn't want for necessarily anything. Like, but man, when I tell you, my dad was like, work ethic was a big thing to him. Like, you weren't going to get anything without earning it. Like, he wasn't just handing something to me. It was never happening. right? And I think about the way they did. I'm like, I love the way my mom and dad did it. I really do. I think they did such a good job with it. And honestly, I'm like, I'm just going to try to repeat that. 'Cause I feel like my dad was a master at, like, you know, he could do whatever he needed to do for me, but like that didn't mean I was getting that.
Did you ever have that conversation with him?
My father?
Yeah. Did you ever?
Yes, all the time.
Yeah.
Because
So that was a concerted effort by him. That just wasn't like did he work to make it that way?
oh God, I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know. Like I don't know. I think his experience was like, you know, he came from a dad who was an entrepreneur, and maybe like things weren't always great, and they went through hard times, and then there were good times. And I don't know, maybe like he just recognized like, hey, I know what it was like to have nothing, and I know what it's like to have enough.
Yeah.
And it's important that like we are like focused on being a good person, right? And that's just how he was raised, and I think that was his thing with me and my sisters. And I mean, I'm telling you, he nailed fatherhood.
Wow.
Like he nailed it. And he still does today.
There's no better compliment.
No, yeah, like he nailed it, and he still does it today, because the gifts he gives me are always like, it was always, you know, hey, I could invest X. When I started my business, he bought me my first truck was $3,000 work van, and he's like, and that's all you're getting from me. Everything else is going to be opportunity.
Wow.
And it was networks, and he's like, yeah, I might get you a meeting, but like you're gonna have to sell them.
Yeah.
I don't know those people. Awesome. I'll get you the meeting, but you're gonna sell them. So I was just like, man, I don't know, like, you know, I love that. So anyways, to answer your question, the long form is like, I try to just replicate the way.
Yeah, you had a good role model, it sounds.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. So
it's hard, man, as a dad. Like, first of all, I don't think that we talk about it enough, like the stress and the weight that
it's a lot.
To keep
it's a lot.
Everything going at home and at work, you know. But I don't know, like I'm an emotional dude. Like I'll talk to my buddies and I'll just like fucking cry, be like, dude, like what the hell, man? You know,
sure.
Like it's a lot, but like I don't know. I don't know. I have broad shoulders.
Yeah, I mean, it's as busy being a business owner, and you have kids, and yeah, your success grows, and even just like your time's being taken away from your family. Like there is a lot of heavy stuff there.
And you know what? You can. I'm thinking about it as we're talking too. Like you and I can go to a book, and then we can also quantify how the business is doing to see if the things that we are doing are taking any traction. Mm-hmm. Traction, another good book by Gino Wickman.
It's a great book.
Fantastic book. Like if there's any traction there, like we can make these micro adjustments, or major adjustments,
right,
and then come back and check the bottom line, and see if the business is doing well. And there's some trends that you can kind of follow. With parenting, you don't know, right? Like it is nice when I see my 4-year-old kind of, you know, take his little sister by the hand and walk into school to all the stuff that he's trying to teach him. He's learning.
Yeah.
But you can't extrapolate that out like you can business.
Right.
And I guess that's where I kind of struggle with the kind of the unknown of like, I know that if I hit certain levers business-wise, like certain things generally.
Yeah. But
it's like,
I don't
know.
Input versus output.
That's right.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't know necessarily
it's a good point
to him that or her that like X is going to happen.
Yeah.
I guess that's the beauty of it all.
Yeah, that. And I think it's about role models, you know. I just think they pick up on what parents do, whether you realize it or not. Like
more is caught than taught. Someone told me, dude. I was like, that's good.
Yeah, like,
and the other thing, dude, is little kids, little problems, big kids, big problems. I was bitching about like changing diapers with 2 kids that were 16 months.
That's a good one too.
And someone was like, well, wait till they're 16, like you don't know where they are.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd far rather have that.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, hey man, like being a business owner and a parent and a husband could be a whole other topic, and like literally an entire other podcast, because there's a lot of stuff there.
And keeping your health together and hanging with your friends enough and expanding your business.
Yeah, man, it's an ongoing effort.
Properly, it's like
it's ongoing, man. It's ongoing.
I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a lot of good conversations, by the way, today. This is really good.
Good, man.
Really, really good, man.
I enjoyed it.
And I could tell you have a lot more in there. Maybe we'll do like a second round down the road.
Sure, yeah, I love that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Jason,
Thank you,
This
brother.
was an awesome conversation,
a lot
bro,
of fun,
man.
man.
I appreciate it. I hope you had a good time, man,
Blast.
and I learned a lot. So I appreciate it. And you know, you could have been home with your family. I value time and I value people's time. So thank you for being here.
So this was actually the first day of T-ball practice, and I'm a coach. And their schedule came out the other day, and I was like,
Oh no.
I gotta miss it because I rescheduled. It's okay. I'd rather be here right now. Danny behind the camera, thank you.
Oh
Crushed it.
man.
It's all good, man. My father-in-law took him from 6 to 8. I'll go home. I'll hear all about it.
Oh, bro, don't ever do that to me again,
it's all
man.
good.
That's nothing's more important.
But there'll be more of those. I don't know when we'll be able to do this, and this was important, so
Great, man.
happy to do it.
Well, thank you again. And real quick, Jason, anybody watching this that wants to connect with you and your company, what's the best way to do so?
My cell phone is 484-213-8793. Any questions, anything I could help you with, I love to help people and kind of send the elevator back down. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to connect with you. LK Miller Inc. website, LKM Commercial on Instagram, Scholl DJ on Instagram. That's it.
Awesome, man. Sounds good.
Thank you,
Jason,
brother.
Thanks again, man.
Appreciate it, man. Take care.
Got it.